Welcome. So if you're exploring Awaraikido, you've probably noticed that it uses some pretty familiar words in very specific ways. This explainer right here, it's your guide to that language. Understanding these precise definitions is really the key to unlocking how this whole practice works. So let's dive in. And this is the core idea. Awaraikido takes everyday words like center and tilt and gives them these precise, almost mechanical meanings. Now, this isn't meant to be confusing. It's actually the exact opposite. The whole point is to eliminate confusion by creating a clear, shared vocabulary. Here's our roadmap. We're going to start with why this precise language is so vital. Then we'll define our stable reference point, look at the predictable shifts that happen under pressure, and explore how to restore our position. We'll also touch on how this affects timing and decision-making, and finally, how you can use this guide as you go forward. So why this big focus on language? Well, because in Awaraikido, just like in life, misunderstandings usually pop up when we use the same words to mean different things. You can think of this guide as our shared dictionary, just making sure we're all on the same page as we explore these concepts. All right, our first core concepts are all about establishing our baseline. Before we can really understand distortion or being off, we need a stable point of origin. And this is exactly where center and orientation become so important. Let's start with center. Think of it as our fixed reference point, like the zero on your internal ruler. It's not some state you have to achieve or maintain through effort. It's a constant. Your awareness might shift all over the place, but your center stays put. It's the baseline you return to for clarity. And this is a really critical distinction. In Awaraikido, center is purely positional. It has nothing to do with feeling calm or confident or emotionally neutral. You can be anxious, exhausted, or under some intense pressure and still be positionally centered. This frees you from the trap of trying to feel a certain way before you can act effectively. So, if center is our fixed origin, then orientation is the current position of our awareness. It's a mechanical description, really, but it's a big deal because your orientation is what shapes what you notice, what feels urgent, and even how you experience time. This highlights another crucial separation we have to make. Orientation isn't about your attitude or your intentions. You can have the best intentions in the world, but if your orientation is distorted, your perception and your actions are going to be compromised anyway. So let's recap. We have a stable center and a movable orientation. So what happens when we're under pressure? We experience a predictable shift away from center. That phenomenon is known as tilt. Tilt is that predictable, mechanical response to pressure that pulls your awareness away from your center. It's not a failure. It's just a natural reaction to a load. And here's the crucial point. Stress can exist without tilt, and tilt can stick around even after the stress has passed. They are not the same thing. Awaraikido identifies three main kinds of tilt. First, you have time tilt, which is when your awareness gets pulled into the future, creating that frantic sense of urgency. Then there's social tilt, which shifts your focus to how you're being perceived by others. And finally, threat tilt, which is when your awareness gets locked onto a perceived danger, often blowing it way out of proportion. Okay, so if we can predictably shift away from center, how do we get back? Awaraikido offers two very distinct processes for restoring our position. One is recenter, and the other is recovery. This is a really key distinction. Recenter is the in-the-moment correction of your orientation while you're still under pressure. It's about fixing your position, not your feelings. Recovery, on the other hand, happens after the pressure has let up. It's all about replenishing your overall capacity so you're better equipped to recenter next time. Now, let's explore how our orientation impacts our actions, especially when it comes to decision-making. This builds directly on what we just talked about, because that ability to recenter directly affects two other concepts: decision timing and authority pressure. This really reframes how we think about good decision-making. In Awaraikido, it's not about speed or confidence. It's about when you make the decision relative to your orientation. A decision made from a tilted position is often ill-timed, no matter how decisive it might feel. Sometimes the wisest action is to just wait until you've recentered. A major influence on our decision timing is something called authority pressure. It's that invisible force you feel when you're in a hierarchy or when you know you're being evaluated. It can distort your awareness and rush you into making decisions before you're properly oriented. Think of that pressure to give a quick answer in a meeting with your boss, even when you aren't ready. That's authority pressure in action.
All right, now that we've defined our key terms, let's talk about how you can actually apply this language as you continue your own exploration of Awaraikido.
So, how can you use this vocabulary to deepen your understanding and maybe even your own practice of these concepts? Well, the process is pretty straightforward. If you come across something that feels confusing, just return to this guide. Check the precise definition of the term they're using, and then notice if you've been unconsciously swapping in a more common, everyday meaning. More often than not, clarity returns when you get the language right. And we'll end on this one crucial point. Awaraikido is not a belief system. It's a set of observational tools. This language is here to empower you to notice where your awareness is positioned, how pressure moves it, and how clarity returns, not through force, but just by restoring your position. Thanks for joining me.